Let's get a divorce. I've been with you for 12 years, that's enough. Ivan is back. You know he's my true love. I looked up at Jenny. When she said those two sentences, her tone didn't even waver. Have you thought this through? I asked. Very clearly. She nodded. I don't want to live like this anymore. Live like this? I let out a small laugh. You mean, with me? She frowned slightly. Don't twist it. I just think, we're not compatible. I stared into her eyes. Then what do these 12 years count for? She avoided my gaze. That was the past. I put down my knife and fork. So now that he's back, you're leaving. This time, she didn't deny it. Yes. The air turned cold in an instant. She seemed to be waiting for me to get angry, waiting for me to question her, even waiting for me to say something like stay, but I only nodded. All right. She froze. What did you say? I wiped the corner of my mouth, my tone steady. I said, all right. Her expression began to change. You're not going to try to make me stay. I looked at her. You've already decided. Would it matter if I tried? Her fingers tightened slightly. I stood up and glanced at the time. The Civil Affairs Bureau hasn't closed yet. Should we go now? She jerked her head up. For the first time, the emotions in her eyes faltered. Chapter 1. Let's get a divorce. I've been with you for 12 years, that's enough. Ivan is back. You know he's my true love. Those were the two sentences Jenny said at our 12th wedding anniversary dinner. When she finished speaking, her knife and fork landed right against the edge of the plate with a crisp sound, like a beat that had been carefully timed. I didn't look up. Slowly, I cut the last piece of steak, dipped it in black pepper sauce, and put it into my mouth. The flavor was a bit strong. I remembered she used to dislike black pepper, saying it was too pungent. But today's dish was ordered by her. Medium rare. She used to only eat well done. I swallowed and nodded. All right. She was clearly stunned. Not pretending, just that kind of instinctive reaction that failed to catch up. I pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the sauce from the corner of my mouth. Unhurried. Lifting my wrist, I glanced at my watch. My tone as calm as if confirming an ordinary arrangement. The Civil Affairs Bureau hasn't closed yet. Should we go now? The moment those words left my mouth, her expression finally changed. From the calmness she had just now, even a hint of prepared detachment, into unmistakable shock. She stared at me, as if seeing me for the first time. For a long while, she said nothing. I frowned slightly. What's wrong? She bit her lip, as if forcing something back down. Fine. Don't pull that regret at the last minute act when we get there. I won't buy it. I nodded. I won't. She stared at me, then glanced at the empty plate in front of me. At that moment, I could feel it. She was waiting. Waiting for me to lose control. Waiting for me to question her. Waiting for me to bring up the past. Even waiting for me to say, can you think about it again? But I said nothing. A 12-year marriage doesn't fall apart because of a single sentence. It empties out slowly. I remember exactly when it started. Her replies to messages slowed, from instant responses, to in a bit, to forgot to reply. She started working overtime more often, yet her clothes never carried the scent of overtime. When she smiled, her eyes no longer moved with it, only the corners of her mouth cooperated. The most obvious moment was half a year ago. I made her favorite braised pork ribs. She took one bite and said, "It's a bit salty." That was when I knew she was no longer at this table. I just didn't expose it. There was no need. I always thought she would come back, slowly. Now it seems she was only waiting for someone else to return. Ivan. Chapter 2. I've heard this name many times before. A college classmate. Her first love. The one she called the only regret of her life. Whenever she used to bring him up, she'd sound casual, like it was just a passing episode of youth. But every time she mentioned him, her tone would slow down. I could tell. I just never said anything. The waiter came over and asked if we wanted dessert. I waved him off. But Jenny ordered a tiramisu. She never used to like sweets. I looked at her and suddenly felt a bit of unfamiliarity. Not something that started today, something I had been avoiding facing all along. She lowered her head, scrolling on her phone, her fingers moving quickly. A faint, unconscious smile at the corner of her lips. I didn't need to look to know who she was texting. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling lights. 12 years. From when I first joined the company as a sales rep, to now leading a team as a project head, she had been there through my entire rise. She studied accounting, worked as a finance supervisor at a private company. Careful, meticulous, and sharp. She used to help me manage my finances, plan my future, even prepare how many shirts I should pack before a business trip. Back then, I thought that was what life was. Stable, concrete. Now she sat across from me, like someone ready to switch tracks. The dessert arrived. She took a bite. Not bad. I didn't respond. She put down the spoon and looked at me. Aren't you curious how he's doing now? I looked at her. Haven't you already made your decision? She paused for a moment, then gave a light smile. You've changed. I nodded. Yeah. I didn't explain, and I didn't plan to. People don't change overnight. They change after being emotionally sidelined again and again, until they learn to stop investing. She seemed a little unaccustomed to this pace. Before, I would have followed her lead, matched her emotions. Now, I just answered. I didn't even bother softening my tone. She looked down, stirring her coffee, her voice lowering slightly. Ivan's doing really well now. He's in investment overseas, has a wide network. I gave a quiet hum. She looked up at me. You don't care? I met her eyes. As long as you care, that's enough. Her hand paused. I could feel it. She was starting to get uncomfortable. Not because I said anything harsh, but because I didn't fall into the emotional script she had prepared. She had thought this divorce would be her walking away, and me passively accepting it. But now, the rhythm wasn't in her hands. She suddenly put down the spoon, her voice turning cold. Claude, don't act like you don't care. I looked at her, saying nothing at first. A few seconds later, I spoke. What kind of reaction are you expecting from me? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I continued. You've already chosen your person and arranged where you're going. This is just a notice to me. So if I cooperate with the process, isn't that exactly what you want? Her expression slowly darkened. I didn't look at her again. I took the bill and signed it. I paid for the meal. Consider it the closing tab on this marriage. When we stepped out of the restaurant, night had just fallen. Streetlights flickered on one by one. She walked beside me, but didn't hold my arm like before. There was half a step of distance between us. Not far, but not close either. Like a line that had already been drawn. She suddenly spoke. You really don't regret it? I paused and looked at her. Would you turn back? She was silent for 2 seconds. No. I nodded. Then that's that. I turned. Flagged down a car. To the Civil Affairs Bureau. The moment the car door closed, I didn't look at her again. 12 years didn't end with her 2 sentences. They ended with mine. Fine. Chapter 3. By the time the car stopped in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, it was completely dark. I got out first and pulled open the back door. Jenny was still sitting inside, not stepping out right away. Her hand rested on her bag. Her fingertips tightened for a second, then relaxed. In that moment, she hesitated. Not about the divorce, but about my reaction. The scene she had prepared didn't happen. I didn't urge her. I just stood to the side and waited. People came and went at the entrance, some arguing, some silent, some signing papers with red eyes. She finally stepped out, straightened her clothes, then looked up at me. Her expression returned to that restrained calm from before. Let's go. I nodded and walked in ahead. The lights in the hall were stark white, the air a little cold. Several couples stood in line at the counters, their voices low, but their emotions impossible to hide. Some were explaining, some complaining. Compared to them, we were unusually quiet. A staff member looked up at us and asked the routine question. Here for a divorce? I handed over the documents. Yes. Jenny took a beat before passing hers over. The staff member flipped through the papers. Tone neutral. Mutual consent. I nodded. She nodded too. Any property disputes? I spoke first. No. She glanced at me but said nothing. In truth, there was property between us. It had just already been sorted out. The apartment was under my name. Bought before the marriage. She had always known that. Over the years, she had her own savings too, a considerable amount. I didn't plan to say more, and she didn't bring it up either. The staff member confirmed a few more details, then handed us an agreement. Take a look. If everything's fine, sign here. I took it and skimmed through. It was simple, just a few lines, compressing 12 years into something clean and brief. I signed my name right away. No hesitation when the pen touched the paper. I pushed the agreement toward her. Jenny took it. Her fingers rested on the page, but she didn't write immediately. She stared at the blank line for a few seconds. Somewhere in the hall, a couple was arguing in hushed, broken voices. She suddenly spoke, her voice low. You don't have anything to say? I turned my head to look at her. Her tone wasn't as certain as it had been in the restaurant. It sounded more like she was trying to confirm something. I didn't respond emotionally. I just stated a fact. I do. She looked up. My tone remained steady. You've always known the password to my bank card. Her expression froze instantly, like something had poked right into her. I saw it clearly. That wasn't the answer she had been waiting for. She thought I would talk about the past, about feelings, about not being able to let go. But I talked about money, the most practical thing. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The staff member reminded her from the side. Ma'am, you can sign now. Only then did she lower her head. The tip of the pen touched the paper. Her hand trembled slightly. Not obvious, but I saw it. She wrote slowly, much slower than I had. Each stroke felt like it was dragging out time. I didn't rush her, and I didn't look away. I just stood there, watching this relationship turn into 2 names on a page. When she finished signing and set the pen down, she let out a breath, as if she had completed something important, or lost something. The staff member collected the documents. The sound of the stamp was crisp, one after another. steady and rhythmic. Those sounds landed harder than any words. Please wait a moment. The person at the counter processed the paperwork. We stood to the side. Jenny suddenly tilted her head toward me, lowering her voice even more. Did you plan this all along? I looked straight ahead, not turning. What about you? She paused for a moment. I'm asking you. I turned to look at her. Does it matter? That question stopped her cold. Her expression darkened slightly. She wasn't used to being questioned like that before. I would have explained, reassured, smoothed things over. Now, I only give results. Chapter 4. She suddenly let out a small laugh, tinged with impatience. Who are you putting on this act for? I didn't respond to that. I withdrew my gaze. On the wall of the hall hung a process guide. The words large and clear. Voluntary divorce, handled according to law. I read those words very clearly. Seeing that I didn't reply, her emotions visibly started to rise. She lowered her voice. Claude, stop acting like this is easy for you. Only then did I speak. What do you think I should be like? She stared at me. At least not like this. Like what? She couldn't answer. I looked at her, my tone calm. Crying, or begging you. Her eyes flickered. I didn't continue. Some things, once said this far, are enough. Anything more would be unnecessary. From the counter, they called our names. Claude, Jenny. I walked over and took back my ID. The staff handed over the divorce certificates. The small red booklet felt lighter than the marriage certificate. I took mine and opened it. Taking a glance, the photo was still the old one. Back then, her smile had been natural, her eyes bright. I closed it without looking any longer. She took hers. Her movements were slow. She opened it, glanced at it, then closed it again. Her fingers lingered on the cover for a moment. At that instant, her expression was complicated. Not joy, not complete relief, more like suddenly losing footing. We walked out of the hall. The air outside was a bit colder than inside. She stood on the steps, not leaving right away. I put my documents away, ready to go. She suddenly called out, Claude. I stopped. She looked at me, and there was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. You really don't feel any regret at all? I looked at her. I didn't answer immediately. A few seconds later, I said, when you made your decision, did you think about that question? Her expression froze. I didn't wait for her answer. I turned and walked forward. My steps were decisive. I didn't look back. She didn't follow. I could feel it. She was standing there. That feeling of being left behind, she was only starting to experience it now. I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau's grounds. My phone vibrated. A message from the company, project progress confirmation. I glanced at it and replied right away. Things keep moving forward. No one stops for a relationship that has already ended. I put my phone away and kept walking. Behind me, it was quiet. No one called my name. This time, she didn't come after me. Chapter 5. The day after leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I changed the locks at home. Not to stop her from coming back to make a scene. There was simply no need to keep any blurred boundaries. The apartment wasn't big. 2 bedrooms and a living room. A lot of things had been chosen together. The sofa was her pick, on the softer side. I never really liked it. The dining table was my choice, sturdy and practical. She used to complain it looked too plain. Now, it felt just right. I sorted her belongings into categories: clothes, jewelry, documents, packed them into boxes, and placed them in the guest room. I didn't throw anything away, nor did I go out of my way to organize everything meticulously. It was like handling a partnership that had already ended. Clear handover was enough. At noon, a colleague from the company called me, asking to meet in the afternoon to discuss a project. I agreed. Life didn't leave me any gap to process emotions, and I didn't need one. After the meeting in the afternoon, I walked out of the conference room. Just as I reached the elevator, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. There was a 1-second pause before the voice on the other end spoke. Is this Claude? The voice was young, with a light, easy tone. Yes, I'm Ivan. I stopped in my tracks. I had heard this name many times from Jenny, but this was the first time I heard his voice directly. What do you want? He let out a small laugh, his tone unhurried. No special reason, just thought we could meet. Jenny mentioned you, said you're pretty decent. I didn't respond to his evaluation. No need. He clearly didn't expect me to be this direct. He paused. At least we should get to know each other. Since in the future, I cut him off. The future is your business. It has nothing to do with me. There was a 2-second silence on the other end. His tone shifted slightly. You're pretty straightforward. Anything else? He chuckled. No, just saying hello. I hung up immediately. I didn't block the number, nor did I save it. To me, he didn't require any follow-up. That evening, I returned home and made something simple to eat. The apartment was quiet. At this hour before, Jenny would be in the kitchen cleaning up, occasionally complaining that I put the dishes in the wrong place. Now, only the sound of running water remained. I washed the dishes, dried them, and put them back where they belonged. The motions were smooth. Not a single pause. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was Jenny. She sent a message. "I'll come pick up my things tomorrow." I replied with one word. "Anytime." She didn't send anything else. I put my phone down and went to stand on the balcony for a while. The night breeze was a bit cold. I lit a cigarette. It had been a long time since I last smoked. The taste was harsh. The next afternoon, she came. She didn't ring the doorbell. She used her old key to open the door. The moment the door opened, she froze for a second. "You changed the lock?" I was in the living room reading documents, not even looking up. "Yeah." She stood at the doorway, still holding the key. In that moment, her expression turned a bit unnatural, like she had suddenly realized this place no longer belonged to her. I pointed toward the guest room. "Your things are in there." She walked in. Her footsteps were light. I didn't follow. A few minutes later, she came out, holding a stack of clothes. "You already sorted everything?" "More or less." She nodded. She put the clothes into a box, then went back for a second trip. After going back and forth a few times, her movements grew slower and slower, like she was stalling for time. I closed the file and glanced at her. Her face looked a bit tired, faint shadows under her eyes, not as composed as yesterday. She carried the last box to the door and stopped. "Did he call you yesterday?" I nodded. "He did." She looked at me. "What did you talk about?" "Nothing much." Her brows furrowed slightly. "Did he say something that made you uncomfortable?" I looked at her, but didn't answer that question. Instead, I asked, "Do you know him that well?" She paused for a moment. "Of course." I didn't say anything further. There was a kind of instinctive defensiveness in her tone. I had heard that tone before. Only the person it was directed at had changed. Chapter 6. She stood there for a while, then suddenly spoke. "Let's have dinner tonight. He'll be there too." I looked at her. "No need." A hint of impatience showed on her face. "It's just meeting once. What's the big deal?" My tone remained calm. "Your relationship doesn't require my involvement." She stared at me, as if trying to read something from my face, but I gave her nothing. She suddenly let out a small laugh. "Are you avoiding this?" I stood up and put the documents away. "I'm just not interested." The smile on her face faded slightly. She picked up the last box and walked to the door. Her hand rested on the doorknob, but she didn't open it right away. She turned back to look at me. "Claude, aren't you even a little curious what he's like now?" I looked at her. "Do you think it matters?" She fell silent. I didn't say anything more. She opened the door and left. The sound of the door closing wasn't loud, but it was clear. The apartment returned to silence. I went back to the sofa and continued reading my documents. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her again. I answered. There was noise on the other end, like she was in a restaurant. She lowered her voice. "Can you talk right now?" "Go ahead." She paused. "He isn't quite what I expected." I didn't respond. She continued. "He is doing investment now, but it's not as good as he made it sound." I set my pen down. "So?" Her tone became a bit unsettled. "His phone keeps ringing. There are several names I don't recognize. He says they're clients." I didn't comment. She suddenly asked, "What do you think?" I looked at the documents on the table. "Haven't you already made your choice?" There was a brief silence on her end. Then her voice dropped much lower. "I just want to confirm." My tone stayed even. "That's not something others can confirm for you." She didn't say anything else. Only the background noise remained on the line. A few seconds later, she softly said, "Okay." Then she hung up. I placed my phone back on the table. I didn't call back, and I didn't think much of it. Some answers, she'll see them sooner or later. There's no need for me to explain. The lights outside reflected against the glass. I glanced at the time and picked up my documents again. The work in my hands was more straightforward than all of this. Chapter 7. On the third day, I cleared out the guest room. Jenny's boxes had all been taken away. The room was left with only an empty bed and a full-length mirror. I took apart the mattress and had someone come to haul it away. Then I changed the curtains. The old set was her choice, light gray, soft-toned. I replaced them with darker ones, better at blocking out light. Once the room was emptied, it looked much cleaner. No trace of her scent, no scattered remnants left behind. I stood at the doorway for a while, then closed the door. There was no need to keep it. That morning, I took half a day off to clear out unnecessary things at home. In the kitchen, the set of tableware she used most often, I packed it up and placed it at the very back of the cabinet. I replaced the throw pillows in the living room and changed the sofa covers too. The changes weren't big, but once done, the whole place felt like it had shed a layer of skin. I wasn't trying to forget anything, just simplifying the environment. In the afternoon, I went back to the company. Several people were already seated in the meeting room, the core members of this project. It was a new collaboration project, not small in value. The client was a local medical equipment company looking to expand their distribution channels. I had been following up on it for a while, but progress had been slow. The reason was simple, their lead was demanding and rigid on terms. When I walked in, a few people looked up. Mr. Claude. I nodded and took my seat. The documents were already laid out. I opened to the first page and got straight to the point. What's their core demand? The project manager handed over the materials. They want access to distribution channels but are unwilling to give up much margin. I scanned the data. What's their current shipment volume? Around 300 units per month. I closed the file. That volume isn't enough to negotiate. They exchanged glances. Then what do you suggest? I placed the pen on the table. Let them see the growth first. Then we talk about profit sharing. The meeting lasted over an hour. The pace was tight. No unnecessary discussion. I finalized the plan and assigned responsibilities clearly. This state, I was familiar with it. Even felt a bit long overdue. Over the years, I had split half my energy into my family. At work, I had been holding back. Not because I couldn't do better, but because there was no need to push that far. Now it was different. After the meeting, the project manager followed me out. Boss, that client has been pressing conditions all along. Are we pushing forward directly this time? I glanced at him. They're not pressing conditions. They're testing the bottom line. He nodded. And us? We don't give them room to test it. He said, got it, and turned to make arrangements. I returned to my office, hung up my coat, and turned on the computer. The desktop was clean, files neatly organized. All these years, I've been used to keeping things within control. Only some relationships were never within that range. Now that part had been cleared out, at 5 in the afternoon, my assistant knocked on the door. The dinner meeting tonight is confirmed. Their lead will be there. I nodded. What time? 6:30. I checked the time. Prepare the materials. Understood. The dinner was set at a business restaurant. Quiet atmosphere. Warm lighting. When I arrived, the other side was already in the private room. The lead, surnamed Koo, in his early 40s, spoke little, but every sentence carried a hint of probing. After a few pleasantries, the conversation quickly moved to business. He looked at me. We've reviewed the previous proposal. The risk isn't small. I didn't respond immediately. I poured the tea first. Where's the risk? He smiled faintly. The upfront investment is high, and the return cycle is uncertain. I nodded. That's why you're holding back on profit sharing. He didn't deny it. I pushed the document toward him. This is the new data model. He opened it. I didn't explain much, just pointed out the key parts. At the current rate of channel expansion, your shipment volume can double within 3 months. He looked up at me. You're that confident? I met his gaze. I don't base my projects on guesses. He was silent for a few seconds. Then he closed the file. If that can be achieved, your terms are negotiable. I nodded. Then let's start with execution. By the time the dinner ended, most of it had been settled. Nothing was finalized, but the direction was clear. That was enough. Chapter 8. After walking out of the restaurant, I didn't linger. I went straight back to the company. The office was quiet at night. Only half the lights were on. The hallway was empty. I sat down and went through everything from today. The logic was clear. The checkpoints defined. Things were moving forward. My phone lit up. A message from a new number. We met today. No name attached, but I knew who it was. Jenny. I didn't reply. A few seconds later, another message came. He really is seeing other women. I glanced at it, then put my phone aside. That kind of information had no value to me. I understood what she was trying to confirm, but that wasn't something I needed to be involved in. I continued organizing the documents. By 10, my assistant had already left. The entire floor was empty except for me. I shut down my computer and stood up, stretching my shoulders, a bit sore, but my mind was clear. I packed my things and got ready to leave. Just as I reached the door, the light in the office next door was still on. The door was half open. I glanced over instinctively. Inside, a woman was sitting at her desk, looking down at some documents. She was dressed simply in a white shirt, her hair tied back. Several contracts were spread across her desk. I recognized her. Abigail, the new head of legal, just joined less than 2 weeks ago. A clean background, an impressive resume. She seemed to notice someone there and looked up. Our eyes met. She didn't avoid it, nor did she show any extra expression. She just gave a slight nod. Still here? Her voice was low, direct. I stood at the doorway. You too. She closed the file in her hands. There's an issue with the contract, making some revisions. I stepped in a couple of paces and glanced at the documents on her desk. It was the draft contract for today's project. I pointed to a section. The responsibility allocation here can be tightened. She looked at where I pointed. I thought it was too loose as well. She picked up a pen and revised it directly on paper. Quick movements. No hesitation. I stood to the side, watching her handle the details. Her thinking was clear, her changes straightforward, not like most people, who tend to circle around. After finishing, she handed the document to me. Is this okay? I went through it. It works. She nodded. I'll finalize another version tomorrow. I didn't say more. I turned to leave. She added from behind. Claude. I stopped. She looked at me, her tone calm. You're pushing this project hard. I turned back. Time is limited. She nodded. Understood. No extra words. I walked out of the office and closed the door. The hallway lights were stark white. At that moment, I suddenly realized, some people are met while moving forward, not replacements. A different line altogether. I walked to the elevator without stopping. Things were progressing, and so were people. By the second week of the project, the client's data began to shift, shipment volume increased, and channel feedback was improving. Mr. Ku's attitude softened noticeably. He took the initiative to propose renegotiating the profit-sharing ratio. I scheduled the meeting for Friday morning. The agenda was tight, with no extra space. At this point, things had basically entered a controllable range, but I didn't relax. In this kind of cooperation, once the other side starts seeing profit, they're more likely to waver. After the morning meeting, I had just returned to my office when my assistant knocked on the door. Boss, someone's here to see you. Who? Jenny. I paused for a second. Let her wait. The assistant nodded. I didn't go out immediately. Instead, I finished handling the documents at hand, signed, sent emails, arranged the next steps. These things were more concrete than her sudden appearance. 10 minutes later, I stood up. The reception area was at the end of the hallway. She was sitting on the sofa, back straight, hands resting on her knees. She had changed her outfit, brighter colors, but her complexion didn't look good. She seemed thinner than before. When she saw me, she stood up immediately. Do you have time? I glanced at my watch. 10 minutes. She nodded. That's enough. Chapter 9. I gestured for her to enter the meeting room. After the door closed, she didn't sit down right away. As if she was adjusting herself, I pulled out a chair and sat down, placing my pen on the table. Go ahead. She took a deep breath. I want to talk to you. I looked at her. About what? Her gaze wavered for a moment, then steadied. About what happened before. I didn't respond. She continued. These past few days, being with Ivan, I've noticed some problems. I leaned back in my chair. Such as? Her fingers tightened slightly. He's not like how he said he was. I didn't comment. She looked up at me. He doesn't have a stable income right now. The so-called investments, most of them are just him tagging along with others. I nodded. What else? She paused, as if choosing her words. He spends money carelessly. No planning. His emotions aren't very stable either. I listened without interrupting. Her tone started to grow more urgent. Most importantly, he's in contact with other women. I looked at her. You're only noticing that now? Her expression shifted. I thought he would be different. I didn't laugh. Nor did I make any sarcastic remarks. I simply asked. Why did you think he would be different? She froze. That question was more direct than any accusation. Her lips moved, but no answer came out. I didn't press further. Her choice had never been based on reality to begin with. She lowered her head, her voice very low. I had an argument with him. I looked at her, not interrupting. She continued. I asked him who those women were. He said they were just normal acquaintances. I didn't believe him. She looked up at me, a trace of unwillingness in her eyes. He said I was too sensitive. My tone stayed even, and then, her expression stiffened. He said, since I'm already divorced, I have no right to demand anything from him. The meeting room fell silent for a moment. Her breathing was uneven. When she said that, it was clear she was carrying emotion. I didn't comfort her, nor did I engage with her emotions. I just looked at her. She seemed to wait, but no response came. She grew a little anxious. You don't have anything to say? I rested my hand on the table. What do you want me to say? She stared at me. Don't you think what he did is too much? I nodded. Yes. She paused, surprised. I continued. But that has nothing to do with me. Her expression froze instantly, like cold water had been poured over her. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. When you made your choice, did you ask me? She fell silent. I looked at her. Now that there's a problem, you come to me. Do you want me to help you judge, or help you fix it? Her eyes started to waver. I just want to hear your opinion. I didn't hesitate. My opinion doesn't matter. Her shoulders slumped slightly. I stood up. Time's up. She froze. You're just leaving like this? I looked at her. Do you have anything else? Her eyes were a little red, but she didn't cry. She bit her lip. You weren't like this before. I didn't respond to that. People change. Not to prove anything, but as a natural reaction when the environment changes. I walked to the door and pulled it open. She remained standing there, not following. I glanced back once. She stood there, like she had suddenly lost direction, but I didn't stop. There was another meeting in the afternoon. I returned to my office and continued handling project details. Mr. Ku sent a message, confirming the next round of cooperation terms. The profit-sharing ratio had been adjusted upward, in our favor. I gave a brief reply and arranged for contract revisions. Abigail had already sent over the new version. I opened it, reviewed it, and marked 2 details for her to revise. She quickly replied, "Received." The communication was clean, without excess. Before leaving work that evening, I organized my plan for tomorrow. The schedule was packed. I was used to this rhythm, clear, direct, with no room for ambiguity. My phone vibrated. Jenny again. He didn't come back tonight. I glanced at it and didn't reply. After a while, another message. He said he was discussing a project, but when I called, a woman answered. I turned off the screen. None of this meant anything to me. What she was going through, that was her path. I wasn't part of it, and I wouldn't step in. I put away the files and shut down the computer. The office lights gradually went out. The hallway emptied. I picked up my coat and walked out. The moment the door closed, I didn't hesitate. Chapter 10. As the project entered the signing stage, the atmosphere in the company noticeably tightened. The contract had been finalized. Abigail sent me the last version. I reviewed it and only adjusted the order of one clause. Everything else stayed as it was. Her way of handling details was clean. No unnecessary complications. People like her are easy to work with. At 9 in the morning, I had just arrived at the office when my assistant followed me in. "Boss, someone is here to see you downstairs." I set the file down. "Who?" The assistant glanced at the tablet. "Jenny." I didn't respond immediately. "She says she won't leave. She'll wait for you." I nodded. "Let her wait." The assistant nodded and left. I turned on my computer and started going through emails. Several were about project milestones. The other side had already arranged the signing time, tomorrow afternoon. Everything was clear, no issues. At 10:30, Abigail knocked and walked in. She placed a printed contract on my desk. "Final version. Please take one more look." I flipped through it. "It's fine." She nodded, didn't ask further, and turned to leave. I stopped her. "Come with me for the signing this afternoon." She paused. "All right." No extra confirmation. Her style suited this kind of setting. After she left, I checked the time. It had already been over an hour. I set my pen down and stood up, heading out. The elevator reached the first floor. The doors opened. The lobby was busy with people coming and going. Jenny stood to the side in the waiting area. She wasn't sitting, just standing there the whole time. Her clothes were slightly wrinkled, her hair less neat than before. When she saw me, she walked over immediately. "You finally came down." I looked at her. "What is it?" Her breathing was a bit uneven. "I want to talk to you." I didn't take her upstairs. This kind of conversation didn't belong in the company. "We can talk here." She glanced around, looking a bit uncomfortable. "Can we go somewhere else?" I shook my head. "No need." She fell silent for a moment, as if suppressing her emotions. Then she spoke. "Ivan and I, something's gone wrong." I didn't respond. She continued. "He hasn't been coming home lately. He doesn't answer calls either. I went to find him. He said he was busy." Her voice grew lower. "But I saw him with another woman." I looked at her, showing no reaction. She stared at me. "You're not surprised at all?" My tone was calm. "Haven't you already confirmed that?" That stopped her. She took a deep breath. I thought it was just a misunderstanding. I didn't comment. Her thinking had never been grounded in reality. She suddenly stepped closer. "Claude, can we start over?" She said it quickly, like she had rehearsed it. I looked at her. I didn't answer right away. There was a hint of expectation in her eyes, mixed with nervousness. I spoke. "Are you here to talk about feelings, or to negotiate terms?" She froze. Clearly, she hadn't expected that question. Her lips moved. "What do you mean?" I looked at her. "Are you here because you regret it, or because your current choice isn't working out?" Her expression changed instantly. "What difference does that make?" My tone was light. "A big difference." She stared at me, her gaze starting to waver. "I just feel like we can reconsider." I nodded. "You feel?" That single word caught her off guard. I continued. "When you made your decision, did you consider me?" She fell silent. I didn't stop. "What position did you put me in?" Her hands slowly clenched. "I didn't think that much back then." I nodded. "And now you have." She didn't answer. Her gaze dropped. I looked at her. "So have you figured it out now?" She looked up at me. I know I was impulsive. I didn't respond to that. She continued. "I thought he would be different." My tone remained steady. "He didn't change. You just misjudged him." Her eyes reddened slightly, but she didn't cry. She bit her lip. "And you, don't you feel anything at all?" I looked at her. "I do." Her eyes lit up slightly. I continued. "But it's already over." Her expression froze, like she had just grasped something, only for it to be taken away. Her voice tightened. "How can you just say it's over and move on?" I didn't explain. There was no need to explain something like that. She suddenly grew agitated. "We were together for 12 years. I nodded. "Yes." She stepped closer. "And you can just let it go like that?" I looked at her. "You let go faster than I did." She had no response. People passed by, glancing over. Her breathing became more uneven. She lowered her voice. Claude. I really know I was wrong. Chapter 11. I didn't move. Her voice carried a slight tremble. I only realize now, he's nothing like I thought he was. I looked at her. That was your choice. Her shoulders shook faintly. I can change. I shook my head. People can change. Choices can't. Her tears finally fell. Quickly, she wiped them away. She didn't want to lose control here. She looked at me, her voice low. Can't you give me one more chance? I looked at her, without hesitation. No. The word came out clean. No emotion. It was like something inside her was hollowed out. She stood there, motionless. I didn't say anything more. Everything that needed to be said had been said. Her gaze slowly emptied, like the last bit of support had collapsed. I turned around. I have things to do. She didn't stop me, nor did she say anything else. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. Her figure was cut off outside. The elevator went up. The numbers ticked one by one. Standing inside, there was no possibility of turning back. When I returned to the office, Abigail was already organizing the documents. She looked up at me. Crowded down there? I nodded. Not too bad. She didn't ask further. She handed me the contract. I've confirmed the signing process. No additional conditions from their side. I took it. We leave at 2. She nodded. Got it. Her attention quickly returned to the documents. No extra emotion. I sat down and opened the contract. Line by line. Clear and precise. That kind of clarity was exactly what I needed now. On the day of signing, everything went smoothly. When Mr. Koo signed his name, he didn't raise any further conditions. We shook hands. The process was complete. The project officially launched. On the way back to the company, Abigail and I went over the next steps. She laid out the risk points clearly, each tied to a specific person in charge. After listening, I only added one thing. Keep a close eye on cash flow. She nodded. Already assigned someone to follow up. This kind of communication required no effort, no emotional interference, high efficiency. In the afternoon, I returned to the office and filed the signed documents. At this stage, the next step was execution. The pace remained tight, but the direction was clear. Around 5, I was getting ready to leave when my phone rang. Jenny again. I glanced at it and didn't answer. After it hung up, it rang again almost immediately. 3 times in a row. I picked up. She didn't speak right away. I could hear uneven breathing. I didn't urge her. A few seconds later, she spoke. Her voice was hoarse. He left. I stood by the desk, not sitting down. Who? Ivan. Her voice trembled slightly. He packed his things and left. His phone is off. I didn't respond. She continued. I went to find him. He wouldn't see me. I asked him why. He just said, it wasn't suitable. She paused there, as if trying to process those words. I leaned against the desk. Anything else? Her breathing grew more uneven. He said I'm not in a good state right now, that I'm not attractive. When she said that, her voice dropped noticeably. There was a break in it she couldn't suppress. I didn't comfort her. That wasn't what she needed. She went on. I saw him with another woman, younger. Her tone began to lose coherence. He said they're just friends, but I can tell. I switched the phone to my other hand, and then. She was silent for a moment. He blocked me. She said it very softly, as if she herself could barely believe it. I said nothing. The silence on her end lasted a few seconds. Then she suddenly asked, "Are you listening?" Yes. There was urgency in her voice. "Aren't you going to say anything?" I looked at the desk. "What do you want me to say?" That stopped her again. She paused for a long time. Then her voice gradually dropped. "I have nothing left now." She said it slowly, each word heavy. I didn't respond. She continued. "The house isn't mine. The relationship is gone too. I only realize now." I didn't hold on to anything. Chapter 12. I stood there, unmoving. Her breakdown came late, but it wasn't unexpected. She suddenly let out a small laugh. Soft, dry, kind of ridiculous, isn't it? I didn't comment. Her emotions were already sinking. There was no need to push further. She took a deep breath. "Do you remember what I said to you that day?" I didn't answer. She continued on her own. "I said I don't do regret." She paused. Her voice caught slightly. "Now that I think about it, it feels like I was saying it to myself." I moved the phone slightly away, then brought it back to my ear. There was wind on her end. She was probably outside. She went on. "I went to his place to look for him. The door was open. The place was a mess. He left in a hurry. Didn't even pack everything." As she spoke, her tone no longer carried that earlier restraint. It sounded more like she was recounting a scene. I stood there, looking at everything, and suddenly it all felt unfamiliar. I didn't interrupt. After finishing, she was silent for a long time, as if she had finally said everything. Then, in a low voice, she said, "Claude, I was wrong." She said it softly, but clearly. I heard it. I didn't respond immediately. A few seconds later, I spoke. Where are you? She paused. Are you coming? I didn't answer that. Location. She gave me the address. A cafe she used to go to often. I remembered. Wait there. I hung up, picked up my coat and left. The cafe wasn't big. The lighting was dim. She sat in a corner. There was only a glass of water on the table. Her head was lowered, fingers tracing the rim of the cup. When I walked over, she looked up. Her eyes were a little red, but she wasn't crying anymore. Her emotions seemed restrained. I sat down. She looked at me, saying nothing. The atmosphere was quiet. The waiter came over. I ordered a coffee. Her gaze stayed on me, as if confirming something. I didn't avoid it. She finally spoke. You came. I nodded. The corner of her lips moved slightly. I thought you wouldn't. I didn't explain. She lowered her head, looking at the table. He really left. I didn't repeat what she had already said. She continued. I can't find him. I can't reach him. He's just gone. Her hands slowly tightened. I only realized I barely knew him at all. I looked at her. Now you do. She nodded. Too late. I didn't argue. She looked up at me. Do you think I'm a failure now? My tone was calm. That's your judgment, not mine. She gave a bitter smile. I think so myself. The coffee arrived. I picked it up and took a sip. It tasted normal. She looked at me and suddenly asked, if I hadn't brought up the divorce back then, would we still be together? I set the cup down. That question has no meaning. Her eyes dimmed slightly. I just want to know. I looked at her. The moment you made that decision, you closed off that possibility. She fell silent. Her fingers slowly relaxed. She said quietly, I only understand that now. I didn't respond. What she needed was time to accept it, not my analysis. She sat there for a long time without moving, as if all her strength had been drained. I glanced at the time. Anything else? She looked up. Her eyes were a little empty. No. I nodded, and stood up. She didn't try to stop me, nor did she say anything more. I walked to the door and paused for a moment. I looked back at her. She was still sitting there, unmoving. The light fell on her, making her seem very still. I didn't linger. I pushed the door open and left. Chapter 13. After the project entered the execution phase, the pace only became tighter. There was data feedback every day. Channel expansion was faster than expected, and Mr. Koo had already taken the initiative to add more resources several times. I split the team into two groups, one focused on the market, the other on cash flow control. There was more and more to handle, but everything stayed on track. In the office, the stack of documents wasn't tall, but it was dense. Every page mattered. Abigail's desk was next to mine. She was rarely idle. Her way of handling contracts was direct. If there was a problem, she fixed it. No detours. Once, I saw her reviewing a supplemental agreement. She deleted an entire section of responsibility clauses and rewrote it. I asked her why. She said, the original wording leaves too much room for interpretation. I nodded. Then change it. She didn't say more, just lowered her head and continued. That kind of coordination made everything move quickly. When working late, we would occasionally grab a simple dinner together. No arrangements, no unnecessary conversation. She didn't ask about my personal life. I didn't ask about hers, but the rhythm was right. That evening, she handed me a document. This milestone can be moved up by 2 days. I glanced at it. All right. She nodded, about to go back and revise it. I stopped her. Are you free tonight? She paused and looked at me. For what? I set my pen down. Dinner. She didn't agree immediately. Looked at me for 2 seconds. Work dinner. I shook my head. No. Her expression didn't change, but her tone softened slightly. What time? After work. She nodded. Okay. No extra confirmation. That was that. After work. I sent out the last email and shut down my computer. She was waiting at the door, wearing a simple dark coat, her hair still tied back, clean, efficient. We went to a quiet restaurant. She ordered quickly, without hesitation. I watched her and spoke. Are you always like this when you do things? She glanced at me. Like what? Fast. She closed the menu. If I've thought it through, I don't delay. I nodded. That's good. She didn't respond. After the food arrived, we didn't talk much. She talked about work. I responded. No effort to force conversation, but it wasn't awkward. This kind of atmosphere felt better than those artificially lively ones. Halfway through the meal, she put down her chopsticks and looked at me. You didn't ask me out just for dinner, did you? I looked at her. No. She waited. I didn't circle around it. I want to confirm something. Her gaze was direct. What is it? Our current situation, are you okay with it? She didn't answer immediately. She looked at me, as if trying to interpret what I meant. A few seconds later, she spoke. You mean outside of work? I nodded. She didn't avoid it. Yes. The answer was decisive. I didn't ask further. She didn't explain. And that was settled. After dinner, We walked out together. Night had fallen, street lights glowing. She stood at the entrance, not leaving immediately. Do you have anything else? I looked at her. No. She nodded. Then I'll head back. I nodded. She turned and left. Her steps were steady. She didn't look back. I stood there for a moment, then left as well. The next morning, my assistant came in. Boss, someone wants to meet you. Says it's about something important. Who? Jenny. I paused for a moment. When? At noon. I nodded. Set it outside. The assistant acknowledged and left. At noon, I arrived at the cafe as scheduled. She was already there. This time, she sat upright, her clothes neatly arranged. She looked more composed than before. When she saw me, she stood up. You're here. I sat down. Go ahead. She didn't go in circles. I want to remarry you. Chapter 14. She said it clearly. No hesitation. I looked at her. I didn't respond immediately. Her gaze was firm, but there was a trace of nervousness beneath it. I spoke. Reason. She took a breath. I've thought it through. The decision I made back then was wrong. I didn't interrupt. She continued. I thought what I wanted was that feeling, but now I realize it was just the past. She looked at me. We were together for 12 years. That's not something that can just be replaced. I nodded. And then? Her voice dropped slightly. I have nothing now. I looked at her. So you want to come back? Her expression stiffened. That's not what I mean. I didn't argue. She went on. I really want to start over. I leaned back in my chair. You think that's possible? She stared at me. I'm asking you. I looked at her. My life right now doesn't need a patch. Her expression changed instantly. What do you mean? My tone stayed even. I already have new plans. She froze. You have someone else? I didn't deny it. Yes. Her breathing paused for a moment. Who is it? I didn't give a name. That's not important. Her gaze started to falter. How long have you known each other? I looked at her. Time isn't the point. Her voice tightened. Then what about us? I didn't avoid it. That's the past. Her hands slowly clenched. You're really not keeping anything at all. I looked at her. I've already moved forward. Her eyes reddened, but no tears fell. She stared at me, silent for a long time, as if waiting for me to change, but I didn't. After a few seconds, she lowered her head. I understand. Her voice was soft. I stood up. Anything else? She shook her head. No. I nodded. Then that's it. I turned and walked away. The cafe door opened. The air outside was slightly cool. Not far away, Abigail was standing there, leaning against the roadside railing, holding a cup of coffee. When she saw me, she straightened up. Finished? I nodded. She handed me the other cup. Just bought it. I took it. The temperature was just right. We didn't say much. She walked beside me, matching my pace. There were many people on the street, but the noise felt distant. I took a sip of coffee. The bitterness wasn't strong, just right.